What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is the Fourth and Fantasy Podcast, episode 32, coming your way. My name's Meek. I got my co-host Woo to my left. Woo, what's up today?
What is up? I mean,
football's up is what's up.
Football is up. Sucks being back at work on Monday, but I mean, that's why we're here now.
Yeah,
football on the horizon.
It's always on the horizon. Like, listen, I just visual exercise, everyone. Let's all close our eyes. If you're driving, keep driving. Don't close your eyes while driving, please. That's not good. But visualize it's, first Sunday of the fall.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's got like a nice crisp, fall weather action coming in. You can let the windows open, and then like that red zone ticker starts to hit. Like you've already made your moves. You're ready to go. You got your snacks ready. You got your drinks ready, and then you're just locked in for 7 hours of football that day.
It's a nice visual. I love the visual. However, are we nervous that ESPN now is going to be running Red Zone?
I did see that.
I'm very nervous.
Really? You're nervous about that?
I think they're going to screw it up. Because ESPN.
No, listen, if you're ESPN, the one thing that you do is you don't touch, like, yes, you own Red Zone, whatever. You don't change it. You let Scott Hansen do his thing. Like, he's already signed, I'm pretty sure this offseason he signed, like, a multi-year deal with NFL Network to stay there. So, like, just don't change that. Like, that's all you got to do.
But ESPN loves change, man.
They do. I hope they don't change that.
I'm just putting it out there. Like, I think we have to be a little nervous.
But, like, how soon do you see the ESPN changes in that? Like, it can't be this year, right? You think this year?
It's their product now. They can do whatever they want.
I'd hate that.
I hate that so much. It makes me a little nervous.
You're all right. You already messed up my visual.
I'd like to have a positive mindset for it, but at the end of the day, you have to be realistic.
Yeah, you do.
And they've messed up a lot of good things.
They have. Getting into our rigmarole, we've hit 1,780 plus plays across Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. That is thanks to the folks watching. We appreciate you. Please keep it up. Follow us on all of our socials: Twitter at Fourth and Fantasy Pod, Instagram and TikTok at Fourth and Fantasy, YouTube at Fourth and Fantasy. Make sure you give us a like, a follow on our socials, and leave a comment because you may see yourself on the show. Quick question of the day, Woo. I'm calling this one the Dynasty Update.
Let's go.
So the Dynasty League that Woo and I have been a part of, we've been talking about recently, had a little major shakeup, I'd say. There were a couple big moves. One included your boy in that. So, we're just going to highlight a couple and give some takeaways and some thoughts, and maybe give you some ideas for yourself in your own Dynasty League.
I like it.
So I kicked it off. I looked at my team just to give everyone like kind of a overview, right? I feel pretty good about my team. So this is a 12-team Superflex league that starts 3, 6, 9, 10. So we start 10. I'm pretty good at quarterback. I get Lamar Jackson and Jared Goff. My wide receivers are Nico, Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams, Zay Flowers, and DK Metcalf, which I'm all like. I love my wide receivers. And then my running backs are. Why am I blanking on his first name? Jonathan Taylor. Wow. I can't believe I did that. That was bad. Jonathan Taylor. I have Joe Mixon. And then I also have a couple of like decent role-playing running backs. Like I picked up DeAndre Swift. I have Jordan Mason. But then the news came out recently that Joe Mixon is dealing with a foot injury, or I think the word was a frustrating foot injury that's going to kind of almost sideline him indefinitely. So I was like, this team is a winner, or competing for a championship, and I need to make a move. And there was a certain team in this league, our good friend Zach, who is not competing whatsoever for a championship. So I go to Zach. He had put a player by the name of Chase Brown on the block, and we just started talking. I will say at first I was not willing to pay the first round pick for him.
Okay.
I was just dead set not doing it. And then you want to know, I can't believe this changed my mind, but it was the deal before that with Coogan and Nick happened, where there was a first and a second and Cortland Sutton was traded away.
Yep.
And then Zach sent to me in the DMs. He was like, listen, Cortland Sutton kind of changed the market going for a first and a second. I was like, there's no way this is gonna matter. But surely I eventually was like, you know what, whatever, I will pay the first. And then Zach had to give the last and final, like, well, let's do a first and a third. And I was like, sure, dude. Whatever.
Good man.
We'll just do it.
Squeeze him out. Squeeze him dry.
So I gave up a first and a third in next year's draft for Chase Brown. Do you think I overpaid Woo for this?
No, I mean, I know you're more in on Chase Brown than I am. I don't know if I would have done it, but it's not a bad trade. That's not what I'm saying. I just personally wouldn't have made the move. I think
you wouldn't have made that move if you had only Jonathan Taylor and then your next best running back was DeAndre Swift.
When you put it that way, like I said, the trade makes sense for both sides in my opinion. I don't think anybody won or lost. Definitely gives you a starting running back, and you can be confident throughout the year. I mean, because you're competing, I don't think that first is going to matter anyways. It's probably going to be a back half of the first round anyways.
That's what my mindset was too. Is that if I'm
probably
going to
third,
if I'm gonna compete and I want to compete for a championship, what's that first going to be anyways? Like at the very best for myself, it's the 112. But if it's the 111 or 110, it is what it is.
If it's any lower than 8, I'd be shocked.
Right, and I was gonna say, and if anything, out of this team, what I was going to need outside of a tight end was probably a running back, and Chase Brown fills the spot. I'm a little nervous about having Chase Brown just because I don't know what the future entails. I know that
that's where my worries lie.
Contract wise, we know that he's slotted in for the next 2 years. I'm hoping this year is a true breakout year for Chase Brown. Not to say that last year wasn't a breakout year, but
a solidifying year where you're like, okay, yeah, we have our starter.
And the word coming out in training camp was that, they want to give him the superstar role and all those things. So I definitely paid attention to those. And if that is true, what running back are you going to be able to pay only a first, obviously a third, but only a first for, a quote unquote superstar role.
Right.
So hopefully it pays out for me. We'll see, but
I think it was the right idea.
I feel good about my team going in now. I still have a second and a fourth to potentially make some moves. TJ Hockenson?
Maybe.
No?
Not yet. Like I said, come crawl in week 6.
So we'll see. Hopefully this team is a competitor deep into the fantasy playoffs, but we won't know until they start playing. But Zach was not done yet. I want to say. So after that trade, Zach then I was literally minutes after the trade went through, he put Joe Burrow on the trading block, and then within minutes after that, he trades Joe Burrow only and receives Bryce Young, a 26 first, a 27 first, and another 26 first. So in total, out of that whole, because that all happened in one day, Zach was able to acquire 4 first-round picks, 3 in next year's draft, a Bryce Young, and a third-round pick. So obviously Zach had himself a day, but
he's done his job.
Let's talk about this Burrow deal. Can I be honest really quick?
Yeah.
I am afraid to trade for any quarterback in this league now going forward.
Oh yeah, the asking price is gonna be ridiculous.
Because the precedent has been set that someone like Joe Burrow went for a young QB and 3 first-round picks. I have Lamar Jackson. I look at that. I want way more than that. Way more.
Yeah.
You have Jaden Daniels. Looking at that, what would you give up?
I don't know, man.
You want their firstborn kid.
I might want
is what
2
you want.
quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's
it's
what
crazy.
I don't know. Maybe people forget about it, about this deal, and it's not as important. I'll tell you what, the people who have the top end quarterbacks in the league, like you and me, and I don't who has Josh Allen. Michael does. So I'll tell you what, I bet you the 3 of us are paying attention because they're all 3 of those guys are all better than Joe Burrow.
Yep.
So if I'm currently in this season and I'm not trading Lamar Jackson for anything less than that,
right.
I want that plus something else.
Oh yeah,
to go
2
forward.
firsts.
But I mean, listen, good on Zach. You know what I mean? He cashed out and cashed out in a great way. I know I talked to him on the side about it. And, he's in on Bryce Young now. He's definitely, he heard the podcast and heard about
Day one listener.
The love for Bryce Young. So he knows, he gets it. But then he has 3 firsts, and you include mine. He has 4 firsts now to just make moves. I love it. It's just like you had said before, though, he has to hit on either hit on these picks or trade these picks to get
otherwise
meaningful
it's a waste
players.
Of time.
So,
but he's definitely set him up put himself in a position to where he has the flexibility. If he likes the draft positions, he can stay where he is. If he doesn't like the draft positions, he can move out of them and get proven players or move up or back in a draft. I too talked to him on the side, and I told him like the all these moves have been great. Like he's clearly bought in on the idea of acquiring assets to starting young and kind of building himself from the ground up, which I think can work. It's a thought process that I'm putting myself through as well. Not to this extreme, but I like the idea. I mean, you've seen situations like this work not only in fantasy but also in like real sports. Like there are teams who go about building a franchise this way. We just saw the Thunder win an NBA Finals last year. They had been doing moves like this for 5+ years, just sitting on draft picks, and you hit on one, and all of a sudden those draft picks you can start using them for other players. And this is Zach's first year in Dynasty, so we've had a lot of conversations of getting his feet wet, and I told him straight out, like, if you don't think your team is good, the sooner you rip the Band-Aid off, the better, and start selling and acquiring the assets like the way he is, the better, rather than just sitting on players and having mediocre seasons and not really pushing the needle anywhere.
Right.
So I think he set himself up to be in a great spot, and kind of like we said, at this point it is fully in his hands on hitting on these draft picks or hitting on trades.
I just want to point something out because I thought he had his own first-round pick. How did you get his first-round pick?
It was in that Bijan trade.
But he doesn't have Bijan.
I know, because he traded it to Bucky. I forget what the deal was. It was in the draft.
He traded his first in the draft?
Yeah.
Oh my!
I think he told me he like did it a little bit too early, not realizing the rest of his roster wasn't gonna be good.
Yep.
So I'm probably gonna have 2 of the top 3 picks in the draft.
Yeah, because you have your own first-round pick, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And Kyle, I'm coming for your first.
Wow.
So that way I can have the first 3 picks in the draft.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's
so
insane.
that's the only thing that hurts Zach, is he's not going to have his first round pick. But Zach, just keep your team the way it is. Give me the first overall pick. and yeah, we'll be straight.
Yeah. Wow. A lot of moves. Obviously, if there are more moves that happen to come up in this league, we'll be sure to share them with you. I'm just
100%.
double checking to see if anything happened else. Nope. So, we'll keep you all updated. So we're gonna move into some news in the NFL. Did not put this one in the doc, but there was a football game that was played. Whoa,
there was.
There was a team.
Football game.
It was a team that dominated.
Here we go. Hang the banner.
Listen,
won the Hall of Fame game. Hang the banner.
I'm just gonna say, is Jim Harbaugh a genius or not? Because you can't tell me that Trey Lance didn't look kind of good out there.
Yeah, the 5 minutes of game time that I watched, I mean, yeah, he looked pretty
13
solid.
for 20, 120 yards and 2 passing touchdowns. Like,
he did his job against
I'm
third string.
Obviously, so Chargers play the Lions in the Hall of Fame game. Chargers won 34-7. There really isn't much to talk about. Obviously, the big highlight of that game is definitely looks like the revival of Trey Lance's career. The Chargers, I think they have him currently right now as their quarterback 3, because they did not play Taylor Heineke. So it was Trey Lance and DJ Uaga. Do you know how to say his last name?
The dude from Florida State.
Because he was an undrafted
I gotta look at
free agent. But anyways, those two play quarterback. I think Trey Lance played the first half and the first half of the third quarter, and then DJ played the rest of the game. I don't think anyone really. The only person who looked good on the Lions side, I will say, is Isaac Tisla, who has him in Dynasty.
You.
Oh, that's me. That's right. Man balled out, I will say. And then the other person who balled out, Keandre Lambert-Smith.
Who?
Yeah. No, I keep saying who.
Fifth
round rookie out of South Carolina. Listen, he's been getting a lot of buzz in Chargers training camps. Obviously I'm entrenched in the circles. And he came and he showed out, had a better game than Trey Harris, I will say. Shout out you, Zach.
I'm not going to lie, I didn't even know Trey Harris played.
He had 1 target.
Wow.
1 target.
Did he play the whole game?
I don't know how much he played.
Okay.
But I know that, and then Omarion Hampton only got 2 carries. So, but good. Listen, it's just the Hall of Fame game. But a stat I saw after the game that I hate absolutely hate it. You'll love this one.
I think I already know what it is.
Oh, what is it?
But I don't want to spoil it for you.
So the stat that I want to share with everyone is that since 1998, or no, sorry, since 2002, the team that has won the Hall of Fame game has never won a game in the postseason.
Yeah,
so
did see
have
that.
we cursed ourselves? Probably. But whatever, I'm going to enjoy the ride. So there's our first piece of news. Second piece of news actually just hit before we hit record. Per Adam Schefter, sources that Browns are signing quarterback Tyler Snoop Huntley, who spent part of last season with Cleveland. With Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel nursing hamstring injuries and Shedeur Sanders having a sore shoulder, the Browns need another arm. Enter Huntley. How does this make you feel, Will?
It just nails. It's the last nail in the coffin of I don't want a single Cleveland Brown offensive piece. That's what it is. The only two people I will consider are Quinshon Judkins if he can clear up what's going on, or Dylan Sampson if the Judkins stuff does not get cleared up. Those are the only two names I care about in Cleveland. I don't care about Jerry Jeudy. I don't care about David Njoku. What's the other Browns receiver? Cedric Tillman.
Yep.
I don't care about him. I don't care about any 17 of the quarterbacks. I don't care about Jerome Ford. I mean, that's just where I'm at. I'm gonna be honest.
You just check out on everything and don't even.
And if it comes to draft season and there's still no update on Quinshon Judkins or what the deal is with Dylan Sampson, at that point I might just say, you know what, Cleveland, stay away from me.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at.
Yeah, this is just bad. This is bad. This doesn't surprise me as like the Browns organization, because the Browns have always been like a bottom tier organization since the beginning of time, and just flooding the quarterback room with more quarterbacks is not going to fix the problem that you have.
Yeah, I just don't.
I don't know. I don't see the vision. I don't see where we're going
think they
on
have
this.
A vision.
No,
I think their vision is Arch Manning.
Hopefully, but like, if that is the case, then like the pick of Dylan Gabriel, the pick of Shedeur Sanders is absolutely useless.
Yeah.
And you could have put it in other areas to help your team, but you chose to take two quarterbacks in the draft.
It's Cleveland.
Trade for one, sign another one. Now it's like it's insane.
Yeah.
But all right. Next one, Adam Schefter's getting a lot of love today on this podcast. So per Adam Schefter, on the first depth chart of the season, the Jaguars are listing their number 2 overall pick, Travis Hunter, as a starting wide receiver and a second string quarterback. Do we get excited for this? Is this worth getting excited, or are we overblowing this?
I mean, you want to be excited, but at the end of the day, it is still the first depth chart of the offseason. Yeah, it could give you an idea of what the coaches and the organization looks at the roster and how they look at it and the structure of it, but I mean, I don't know if there's like too much cement here in this depth chart. On August 4th.
No, I will say, as I'm looking at the depth chart, like with my physical eyes, they have 3 wide receivers, and he's the third one listed, quote unquote. Dyami Brown is the way I read this is like Brian Thomas Jr. is like the X, the Y is Dyami Brown, and then Travis Hunter's the slot. And
which I think would be the best role for Travis Hunter. But again, I can't sit here and convince myself to draft him, especially in redraft, and be like confident that I'm going to get a full season of fantasy value out of him. Yeah, even though I really want to succeed. Like I want people to understand that I really want him to prove every single person wrong who's telling him that he cannot do what he's doing, who told him he couldn't do what he did at Colorado. It's just like, everything I'm seeing at a camp from him is like the motor is crazy. The kid never gets tired. I mean, his athletic ability is insane. I swear he goes for jump balls and he just floats in the air while the defender's on the way down. It's like stuff like that. It's like, how do you not want to watch this kid play wide receiver? But I don't.
Yeah, it's tough. Like I'm looking right now, his ADP.
I can't confidently come up with an answer for you.
He's going at the 606 wide receiver 30, and like the names going after him are like Jalen Waddle. I think I'm
more confident in Waddle.
Like Chris Olave.
Olave could be a target machine.
He could be. I mean, Addison, I'm not even going to count because he's serving that suspension. I would take Travis Hunter over Jerry Jeudy. I would take Travis Hunter over Chris Godwin.
Yeah,
but I don't think I'd take him. I don't think I'd take him over Calvin Ridley. So he's kind of like
probably not
farther down in the rankings. But
it's like 6th round. There's still good value there for other positions, not even just wide receivers.
Correct. Hopefully, like it's able to kind of solidify. I think what's going to happen is come these preseason games, we're going to get a really good idea of, how he's being worked into the offense. And then
this is a good first.
People will be able to make an educated decision on, like, do you want to buy into it or not?
Yeah, this is a good first step in, like, the direction of, okay, like, we think the Jaguars have confidence in him as a receiver.
Yeah.
But, again, it's August 4th, still training camp. They haven't played a preseason game yet. I'm curious to see how much run he gets in the preseason. I would hope.
Do you think he gets run? Do you think he gets run on both sides of the ball in one game, or do you think like one game's a receiving game, one game's a? Honestly, if that happens, I think that's bad for business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's probably more likely that they give him one or the other. But like
in preseason,
like I get the whole preseason. Like, listen, we don't want to get these guys hurt before the season starts, but like the Cincinnati Bengals over the last few years refuse to play their starters, and how many times have they started the season 0-4, 1-3, 2-2 when they're losing to bad teams? Last year they lost to New England in week 1.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at some point you have to realize, like, okay, these guys should be getting a little bit of work in these preseason games. Even if you start preseason 1 or game 1 in the preseason, you play the first quarter, then you go to the second quarter. And game 3, you play the third quarter, and maybe you play a full game in the fourth game, but at least give yourself like a full half of football during the preseason, like with your starters out there. Because whether it's a preseason game or NFL or week 1 of the regular season, if you get hurt, like, it sucks no matter what.
I want the NFL to bring back the 4-week preseason.
Oh, that's right. It's only 3 weeks now.
Because it's only 3 weeks. But remember, when there was 4 weeks, it was like the first 2 weeks are like, it is what it is.
Week 4 is a dress rehearsal.
But week 3 was the dress rehearsal.
Or week 3.
And it was like, we go, like, you run your starters on off. Like, there was an unwritten, like, code, you know what I mean, for both. Like, I'm going to run my starting D. You're going to run your starting O. We're going to go at least a quarter and just play it out. And
exactly.
And that's it. And then week 4 is like your like bubble guys, like you give them the most amount of playing time to see like if they're gonna make the squad or not. But like I think it's better as a coach able to like manage your team, like if you have that setup as opposed to the 3 week, because I hate to shout them out, but there was at one point a couple of years ago when it was the 3 week preseason where it was like the Pittsburgh Steelers had the number 1 offense and everyone was like, oh my God, they're going to be amazing. And then they crashed and burned, you know what I mean? But it was because they were playing against 2s when they were running their 1s and nobody was like on the same page.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I just think like rookies, like they especially should be getting run. Like, I don't care if Travis Hunter was second pick. Like, he's 20. He's 20 years old. Even if he pulls a hamstring, he'll be good in a couple weeks.
Right. Next piece of news. Running back James Cook is not participating in practice for the second straight day. Cook sat out Sunday's practice amid contract talks with Buffalo, telling reporters his absence was due to, quote, business. How does this, how long do we see this, quote, business woo play out for James Cook and the Buffalo Bills?
Clearly his business is not working because they're not coming to a contract agreement. And what was the number? We talked about this like a few episodes ago.
I want to say it was like $12 million he was looking for.
Whatever it was.
I'm gonna pull up.
It was like he was in like
numbers.
the Christian McCaffrey, like Saquon Barkley range. I just thought that was nuts.
Yeah, it was something kind of nuts.
If he wants 17 a year, he's getting paid more than Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, Kamara, Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon, James Conner, Dave. The only 2 people he's not getting paid more at that point would be McCaffrey and Barkley.
Yeah,
that is no. The answer's no. There's no way. If the Bills cave in on that, no backbone.
No, they won't because James Cook is not their running back 1. The running back 1 is Josh Allen. Like let's just be honest with that, because they can bring out Ray Davis or Ty Johnson, and they can fill the role that James Cook can do, and James Cook can finish. What's probably going to happen is they're not going to get anywhere with contract talks. He's going to sit out. He's going to lose valuable time with meshing with the offense and gaining chemistry with Josh Allen, the offensive line, whoever it may be. They're going to go into the regular season. He's going to have a terrible regular season, and then he's going to go hit the market, and he's not even going to get anywhere close to what he thought he was going to get. Yeah. Whereas again, I'm always for an NFL player getting their money, but you got to know your worth. You got to know your worth. You're like, I love James Cook. I think he had a phenomenal season last year, but I'm sorry, you're not worth the value of Alvin Kamara, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley. You're not there yet. Yeah. And I don't know if you will be. So you got to kind of take it where you can.
Going from $1.2 million a year to 17 is crazy.
It's a huge jump.
Go to I don't know, like go to like 10 to 12. Like be in the Kamara, Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones range if you want. I'm more fine with that than you being, $2 million less than Christian McCaffrey. There's no way.
Right.
No
like
way.
it kind of
It's
blows my
night
mind.
and day difference what McCaffrey and Barkley can do compared to what James Cook can do.
Right.
Night and day.
Joe Mixon gets $8.5 million. I'm just now looking at this list. Like Joe Mixon gets $8.5 million a year, and like Montgomery gets 9.1. Like
shout out my mom who's listening right now. I could show her James Cook highlights, Christian McCaffrey, and Saquon Barkley, and she has no idea who all three of these players are, and she would be able to pick who are the two better than James Cook. Like it's really it's that cut and dry.
I would actually love to see that.
It's
That'd
that
be
cut
great.
and dry.
But hey, handle your business, James Cook. We'll see what happens. And then these last two pieces of news are just quick kind of blitzes, just to give highlights as we have preseason true week one happening this upcoming week. So teams are playing and getting ready. So for the Atlanta Falcons, Michael Penix and Kirk Cousins are not going to play against the Lions in the preseason opener. You think that's a big deal, Will?
I think Penix should be getting run. He's only played 3 games,
yeah.
and one of them was week 18 when nobody's playing.
Right.
Maybe I'm just, I don't know.
Hey,
maybe I'm just an old man screaming at the crowd.
But
at
no,
the clouds,
I think you have a point though, because in this other piece of news, J.J. McCarthy is going to play in Saturday's preseason opener against the Texans, and that makes sense. J.J. McCarthy only played 1 preseason game last year, hurt himself, was done for the year. He hasn't had any true meaningful NFL snaps, so really the best thing for him is like the snaps he gets in camp, and then anything he can get in preseason to get himself ready.
What is the difference between someone getting hurt in the preseason and out for the year, or someone getting hurt week 3 and out for the year? Either way, you're mad.
Oh yeah.
Either way, you're mad.
I guess the to play devil's advocate for that is like it could have been managed where if they don't play, then they don't get hurt, but they're eventually, to your point, they're eventually going to get hurt anyways because they're playing in the regular season.
Right.
So that is it for all of our around the NFL news. Now it is time to get into the main topic of the show. I think we've been on a good groove lately for like main topics of the show. Yeah. We've given you, last week was our flop candidates. The week before that we gave you breakout candidates. We've talked about bounce back candidates, but today is our hidden gems episode. This one I'm excited for because this is where essentially Will and I are putting the cards on the table and telling you who we like and who we think are like kind of sleepers. So if you're in the Bonnet Fantasy Football League, turn this episode off.
Go
please.
away. You're not allowed.
Yeah, you're not allowed to listen to this. So what we're going to give you, ladies and gentlemen, are some candidates who we think are going to be some hidden gems. It could be based on their situation, it could be based on their ADP, but we're going to give you kind of the reasoning behind it. We'll give you 2 in each position: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, as we always do. Let's roll, dude. I'm ready to go.
Come on.
I'm going to kick it off. First one I'm going to give, this one's going to make Josh Matera jump with joy, but it's Dak Prescott.
He needs this, though. He needs this.
He does.
This is a bad week for him.
Dude, we didn't even talk about the Micah Parsons news.
Yeah,
So Josh, this one's for you. Shout out. It's Dak Prescott is my hidden gem. Going right now as the quarterback 14 in the 11th round. The reason why I'm picking Dak Prescott as a hidden gem is you need to look at the offensive moves for the Cowboys this year. They signed Javonte Williams. They signed Miles Sanders. They draft Jaden Blue. And in the back pocket, just keep for later, they also traded for George Pickens. And what happens? Head coach Brian Schottenheimer comes out and says that they're going to be a run-heavy / a run-first offense. What?
Facade.com.
What? This is the biggest facade I've ever seen in my life. Javonte Williams had a terrible year in Denver last year. Miles Sanders basically sat himself out in Carolina, and then they draft a 5th-round running back in Jaden Blue, who wasn't even really the focal point in his offense in Texas when he was in college. And you do all 3 of those things, and then you trade for George Pickens? And then you're going to tell me that you're a run first offense? I don't believe you.
Tell me which move was more important.
Yeah, out of all 4 of those moves, you tell me what the most important one is, and it's easily George Pickens. If you don't say George Pickens, you're out of your mind. So that's kind of point number 1. Point number 2. The last time that this happened, back in 2023, when they had released Ezekiel Elliott, and then let's bring him back into the fold. And then they have Tony Pollard, and then they split carries, and Mike McCarthy says we're gonna run first and predicate everything off the run. How'd that work for you, Mike McCarthy? Dak Prescott finishes as the quarterback 3. He had 1,600 yard passing, 36 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and CD was the wide receiver 1. This year he's being left for dead because he had such a poor 2024. I get it. He was hurt and he was out for the year, but he's being like left for dead. Like he was never ever good. If he stays healthy, I don't see how he's not a top 8 quarterback. Not even a top 10, top 8. Like, and if you take him as the quarterback 14, it's an absolute steal. I'll tell you what the perfect strategy is. If you're somebody who is sitting at the 5, 6, maybe even 4, if you want to pull the trigger early. If you're sitting at the 4, 5, 6 of your draft, and you take CeeDee Lamb, you can just sit all day long and take Dak Prescott in the end of the round, and then all the while, as you're getting your way down there, you're just filling with wide receivers and running backs and a good tight end, because you can lock yourself in for Dak Prescott at the very end of the draft, because people aren't going to care about him. I think Dak Prescott, outside of him being injured, if he plays a full 17 games, I just don't see how he doesn't finish as a top 8 quarterback.
I'm sitting at third spot in our Bonnet draft. I'm heavily considering CeeDee Lamb for all of those reasons that you just mentioned for Dak Prescott. All of those reasons.
It's almost like a what is it in bingo? Like a free space?
Yeah, free space.
Like it's
like free play.
Yeah, it's like a free play in bingo, where it's like, okay, I'm going to take CeeDee Lamb and I'm just going to sit back on Dak Prescott. Obviously, if there are some people who believe in Dak Prescott and want to pull the trigger around him early, then you just got to be wary of that in your draft. But if not, like I just don't see how it doesn't work.
Yeah, no, I'm all in on the Cowboys offense for this year, especially with that Parsons news and him possibly not being on the team. I didn't think the defense. I thought they were going to be an okay defense. Obviously, a guy like Parsons can bring you up a tier, just based off of his talent alone. But if he's gone, that Dallas defense is going to be bad, and they're going to need to score a lot of points. And I think they're going to air it out like crazy.
They're going to have to.
How do you not when you have Pickens?
You can't play. It's the Bengals situation essentially. Like, you can't sit there and play like slow ball when your defense gives up a touchdown within 5 minutes of a drive. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to have to throw yourself into those games. And, ding, 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 they trade for George Pickens. So, like, not only do you have CeeDee Lamb, you also have George Pickens to, like, facilitate on the other side. Like, it just tells me flat out, like, we don't care about running the football. We're going to have to pass the ball in order to stay competitive in games. Because really for Brian Schottenheimer, if he's not staying competitive in games, he can kiss his job goodbye, and they're going to go find someone else to 100%. Be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. So that's my quarterback pick. Woo, why don't you give us your quarterback pick for a hidden gem? Am I shocked?
You shouldn't be, because he is the definition of a hidden gem. Diamond in the rough. People wrote him off. They don't want him.
Geno Smith?
Justin Fields. Also former Jet quarterback Geno Smith.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot.
But no, we're going Justin Fields. And I just let's do a quick flashback to 2022 when Justin Fields was the QB 6 in fantasy that year. And let's take a look at the Bears roster. So let's start here. So their starting roster, obviously Justin Fields at quarterback, Dave Montgomery at running back, very good running back at the time, still is. These are the people he's throwing the ball to: Darnell Mooney, Equanimeous St. Brown, Cole Kmet.
Whoa.
I mean, what kind of pass catchers are we talking about here? And then we go to the offensive line. Braxton Jones as a rookie, Cody Whitehair, Sam Mustipher, Tevin Jenkins, Riley Reef. No offense to these guys.
Never heard any of those.
But who are they?
Never heard none of those names.
Who are they? And then they allowed 58 sacks in the season. Which was the most they had ever allowed. The Bears have ever allowed as a franchise in a season, and that's back in 2022.
I was gonna say I think they let more up last year.
Oh, they sure did. They sure did. But at the time in 2022, that was a franchise record, and
crazy.
That's not the kind of franchise record you want to set.
No.
And just Justin Fields, his whole career in Chicago was just given trash for roster constructions. Last year he's 4-2 as a starter. He actually looked pretty solid as a passer out in Pittsburgh, and they throw him to the curb for freaking Russell Wilson. I mean, Zach, if there's any time you need to be protesting the NFL headquarters, it was last year, because they did you so dirty giving you Russell Wilson instead of Justin Fields. Now we go to the present, reunited with Garrett Wilson. And they went on a pretty nice run in the college football playoffs when they were both at Ohio State. And this is going to hurt me. I know it is. But the way Aaron Glenn is talking about this team,
do it.
the way he's
Set
talking
yourself
about
up.
this team, no, it's bad because I'm setting myself up for the biggest crash and
Yeah,
burn
you
of
are.
all time. But he seems to be like creating a culture that this organization hasn't had probably in my entire lifetime. Maybe going back to Rex Ryan when they went to those AFC Championship games, because those are the highlights of my life. That's how you know this team sucks.
Could I interject really quick? Because wasn't that all that was being taled about with Robert Saleh when he first started? He was
I
a
don't know what
locker
you're
room
talking
guy. And
No.
all right. No, sorry. Continue.
No,
then.
I don't know what you're talking about, but the answer is yes. But no, just the way he is, the thing that this team has lacked has been discipline for years and years, and he is holding these players accountable. And the way he's talking about Justin Fields makes me happy as well. He's praised his deep ball. Everyone knows, the rushing ability he has. When he was the QB6 in 2022, he had 1,100 rushing yards. It was ridiculous as a quarterback. That's more than
insane.
some running backs had last year. So the fact that he's praising the way that he can throw the ball, and obviously he's highlighting the legs, but everybody knows he's got that. It's the throwing ability that I think people are sleeping on, and he definitely has those talents as well in his arsenal. And this is going to be the best offensive line he's played behind. They haven't played as a full unit just yet. They did draft Armand Membu in this year's draft, so that will be a rookie, on one of the tackle positions. But the rest of the group, last year, this is going to be one of the best groups they've had in a very long time playing offensive line. And I think he will have, Justin Fields will have the luxury to lean on this defense. I do expect him to take a step up from last year. Last year was really bad, especially of how disgusting they were in 2023. And he's going in the 12th round. He's going at the 1204. He's being drafted around guys like Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, Jordan Love, C.J. Stroud, Cam Ward. I think Drake May is an interesting play. I'm not entirely sold on the rest of the roster that's surrounding him. I do think the talent is there. He has a cannon of an arm. He can also use his legs, but I'm just not sold about the pieces surrounding him. J.J. McCarthy, we still haven't yet to see play an NFL snap. Jordan Love has no rushing ability. C.J. Stroud has no rushing ability. Cam Ward didn't really use his legs a ton in college, and also a rookie. So I just think of where you can draft him in your leagues, especially if you were in a position where you can draft Garrett Wilson in the second round. You have an immediate stack that you're not taking until the 12th round, who has the ability to rush for 1,100 yards. Let me see what quarterback he's being taken off the board right now, because where you're going to have to draft him, he will smash the 80. He will smash that position. Just based on where he's being drafted. So that's 6, 9. He's being taken as the 16th quarterback off of the board.
Yeah.
And you're going to all he has to do is have an average year on top of the rushing ability, and I don't see any reason why he's not a top 12 quarterback. The legs are so crucial, and I do think the passing will increase this year, especially with him not having to run for his life half a second after the ball is being snapped. I don't know, man. I just I know there's bias here, but I just think situation-wise and the way that they're talking about him in camp so far, as much as Aaron Glenn has been talking about how well he's been playing, he is also being sure to highlight, his mistakes and the things that he needs to work on, because
Holds him accountable. That's huge.
Exactly. It's the accountability. It's, speaking truths rather than just making up BS for the New York media, that coaches have loved to do in the past.
So, really quick, because I saw you mention, so you would take all of these names behind Justin Fields, like Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, Love, like you take them all behind Justin Fields? So
May, McCarthy, and Ward are all going behind Justin Fields.
Okay.
I think there's an argument for Drake May. McCarthy, like I've said, on the show before, I am still iffy. I do think there could be an argument there, but gun to my head right now, I'm taking Justin Fields. I do think there's an argument for Drake May. Cam Ward, there's no way I'm taking I'm taking Cam Ward instead of Justin Fields. And then Love and Stroud, they're more proven quarterbacks. They can sling the ball, but there's no rushing upside. They are statues in the pocket.
Yeah, I think I agree with almost everything you say. I think I'm still Love over Fields.
Okay.
But I'd be willing to take Fields over Stroud just because of the game we play in fantasy football, and Fields is probably more valuable as a quarterback. I think Stroud's a better overall NFL quarterback, but that's not the game we play. We don't play true to the NFL. We play for stats essentially. So I like that pick. Moving into the running back category, my running back hidden gem I have for you is Cam Skattebo. Cam Skattebo's going at the 9-10 as the running back 37. I just want to remind everybody of the previous college season that we just saw from Cam Skattebo before he was drafted. 1,711 rushing yards, 21 touchdowns. He also had 45 receptions for 605 yards and 3 receiving touchdowns. He was an absolute beast in college football. I believe he was. Did he finish second in the Heisman voting, or is it third? Fourth, which is kind of criminal.
Either way, like the fact that he was even in the voting.
Right. He was in the voting, for the Heisman, trophy. When you look at the tape, he's such a physical runner, but then also had like breakaway speed at times where like you thought for sure he was getting caught dead to rights, but then he just kind of, separates away from the DB and scores a touchdown. So like he, in my opinion, is such a he's a stud. I truly think he's going to be a stud when he steps on the NFL field. And I think as of right now, when you look at the ADP, people are just assuming that Tyrone Tracy is like the starter, like at all. Like Skattebo is going at the 9-10. Tracy's going at the 7-08. So he's essentially going 2+ or 2 rounds and 2 picks more than where Skattebo is going. And I don't think it's that like blatantly obvious that Tyrone Tracy is the starter in New York. Tracy also dealt with fumbling issues, which he's had since college, and they've now come into the NFL. There were multiple times where he had a fumble that like killed a drive for the Giants or anything like that. And the quickest way that you lose trust in the coaching staff is you put the ball on the ground and turn it over to the other team. So for me, it's really only a matter of time before Skattebo takes over as the number one, running back. I know right now in training camp he's dealing with a mild hamstring issue, but just like Wu said, like these, some of these kids are like young 20-year-olds that give them a week and a half, they're going to be fine. But if any of these, kind of points that I've given you before about, Skattebo or points against Tyrone Tracy, if you have any doubt about Tyrone Tracy, why not just take Skattebo 2 rounds later and just see what happens? You know what I mean? Like, unless this pick as a hidden gem, if you are not if you're like a gung-ho Tyrone Tracy guy, this isn't the pick for you. I'm just gonna be flat out honest. Like if you're like a gung-ho Tyrone Tracy guy, that's fine, take your guy and go forward. But if you're someone who's like, I'm kind of doubting Tyrone Tracy to either continue or like I kind of like Cam Skattebo, like you're in the camp of I am, take him at the 9-10 and just see what happens. Like, you never know what's going to happen. He's
not going to kill you at that point.
I was going to say it. So what, at the 9-10, you're able to fill, 2 running back spots, 2 wide receiver spots, actually a couple more wide receivers. Like you're able to fill out most of your roster, and it's one of your bench spots that you take, and you might not ever play, but at least you take the shot on him. And if you're, a believer like I am, like he may turn into, running back 1 who catches passes out of the backfield and runs the ball, and then you've got yourself kind of a dual threat guy.
Yeah, no, I think Skattebo is interesting. Like you said, I don't think Tyrone Tracy looked bad last year. Yes, there were some things, the fumbling was a problem.
Right.
But I think overall, it wasn't a bad season, and it's not necessarily they purposely went into this draft going for running back because they knew they needed to replace him. But it's also Tracy doesn't really do anything that blows you away, where it's like there's no way that Skattebo doesn't have a chance, or no way that Skattebo has a chance, to eat into some opportunities here. And like you said, based on where he's being drafted, at worst he's one of your flex spots, and you probably have another flex spot that you could flip him out if the start of the season doesn't go the way you think. It's just like it's the opportunity cost of where you're drafting these guys, where like Skattebo, in the 9th round. At that point, you have most of your roster constructed. Maybe you're already deep at running back, and you have your flexes filled out. And now you're starting to look for your tight ends and your quarterbacks if that's the route you went. And at that point, if he's a bench piece, now all of a sudden he's eating into RB1 touches, and it becomes a 50-50 backfield. And you find a good matchup late in the year, and all of a sudden you have a smash play in Cam Skattebo who could win you a week.
And the other thing I will point out is Tyrone Tracy, and I know it doesn't sound like much, but Tyrone Tracy was a 5th round pick, and Skattebo was a 4th round pick. You know what I mean?
You have to look at the draft capital.
And to go into the argument about the fumbles and everything, Tyrone Tracy had as many fumbles as he did rushing touchdowns. He had 5 fumbles and 5 rushing touchdowns. So you can't tell me that it's not a problem. You know what I mean? And if he didn't clean that up in this offseason and it becomes a problem this season coming up, you can see him ride the bench sooner rather than later.
Yeah, no, I've definitely said this before, and I'm going to say it again. If Skattebo was going to eat into anybody's touches, Tyrone Tracy's the guy. and especially like the Giants as a whole, you know they're not going to be a good team. They're probably going to be experimenting different packages and different lineups. And Scatabo is the personality and the heart that he shows on the field. Like, how do you not want that? You want that guy,
Oh my
running the
God,
football for
that guy
you.
runs so hard
That's
when
what
he
I
has
mean.
the ball.
Like, he's putting his life on the line every single rush, even if he picks up an extra inch. Like, that's just kind of the guy. That's just the kind of guy he is.
Absolutely. Woo, going into your hidden gem running back pick, can I just tell you before you give the player's name, I'm terrified, but please.
So you need me to sell you?
I need you to sell me.
Okay.
Because I have him on my dynasty roster. I was sold on it. I believed it, and now I've been hearing some recent things coming out of camp that has me terrified. But please win me back over.
Yeah, it's gonna be Travis Etienne, and we're gonna flash back again. We're going back to 2023 this time. Finishes as the RB3 on the year. Hell of a season. Going into last year, he's being drafted in usually the first 4 picks of the second round. So I would say anywhere from like the 202 to maybe the 205. That's where I took him. And he was, he would have been great for last week's episode. One of the biggest flops of all time.
Oh my God, yeah.
He follows it up. He's the RB35. He only missed 2 games. It wasn't a matter of him not being on the field because of injury. It was a matter of him being on the field because other people were eating into his touches. The attempts were way down. Targets came down as well. Trevor Lawrence missed time. I think he only played 10 games. One of the bigger concerns, is the snap percentage and his usage from last year. Tank Bigsby was eating into that. They do draft Byshell Tootin as well. And looking at last year, his snaps on passing plays nearly doubled his rushing snaps. But that's really been the case his whole career. So last year he was on the field for 271 passing plays, and he was on the field for 153 running plays. I think that's the biggest part of his game, though, is what he can do, in the passing game, being a threat out of the backfield. And, we've talked about this with quarterbacks. When you have that rushing ability, it's extra fantasy points that you can score. If you're a running back who can catch the ball and get receiving work, that's extra points that other running backs, that don't have that ability aren't scoring on a week-to-week basis. Last year, with all of these attempts coming down, he was 14th in targets last year among running backs, according to PFF. We talked about the depth chart earlier with Travis Hunter, and it is only August 4th, but he was listed as the starter on their first depth chart. So at least you can get an idea of where they're looking. Like I mentioned, the passing upside is still there. He's got that college connection with Trevor Lawrence. They've played a few seasons together now. The biggest thing for me is Liam Cohen comes over from Tampa Bay, and the running game was huge in that Tampa Bay offense. And even with Bucky Irving, coming onto the scene and kind of taking over Rachaad White's job. Rachaad White was still the RB22 on the year, and obviously Bucky was the RB12, but the way that Liam Cohen was scheming that offense, there was usage for both of them, especially with Rachaad White, who is similar to Etienne and where he's more dominant in the passing game. And that's where he scores a lot of his fantasy points. But I also really like Travis Etienne as a runner, and he's going in the 9th round right now at the 901. He's going behind guys like Jalen Warren, Brian Robinson Jr., and Najee Harris, and I think those guys do have some value for their team. But when you're looking at the range of outcomes for these guys, if you're going to pick any of them to be in the top 12, who are you picking from those 4?
Probably would take ETN, but the one thing that I heard recently that scared me, and I don't know if you've seen it, but there were a couple of tweets from some beat reporters out of Jacksonville that were saying as they watched the offense kind of play itself out, it was more and more like apparent that Tank Bigsby was like the first running back on the field when they start drives and things like that. And I don't know if that scares you or not, because I'm also looking at that picture of the depth chart, and there's a nice little or between him and Tank Bigsby, where like the coaching staff is saying it could be Travis Etienne or it could be Tank Bigsby, and I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
I mean, these are all things you have to acknowledge. You have to be honest, with the situation. I think also last year there were some games, because I had Travis Etienne on my roster, so unfortunately I had to pay very close attention to that terrible season. There were a lot of games where he would come off the field and you thought it was because of injury, but then he didn't really go into like the medical tent or anything. But he did stay off the field for a little bit. They would let Bigsby get some run, and then like you kind of as the game go on, like just not see Etienne. And he only missed 2 games. Like he played 15 games last year. I think there was some kind of lingering injury going on, because it was just like the way he would come off the field, because he looked banged up, but then he would never go seek medical attention from the team. He would never go back into the locker room, never go into the tent. I just think there was something lingering going on there. I don't think he was at 100%. And if he was, maybe this pick is a lot different for me. But I think from what I could see and from what I've seen from Travis Etienne, because I'm a big believer in if you put something on tape, it's there for a reason.
Oh, yeah.
That stuff doesn't just magically disappear. He's not all of a sudden just not an NFL caliber running back. And to be honest, I haven't seen enough out of Tank Bigsby to be confident to sit here and say, like, I trust Tank Bigsby over Travis Etienne.
Yeah. I'm putting a lot of faith in, also Rhodey boy Liam Cohen too.
Yeah, no, Liam Cohen is a big factor in this.
I need him big time.
A massive factor, because if it's still Doug Peterson, Travis Etienne is not on my list right now.
Yeah,
it's what Liam Cohen has put on paper or on tape with having two running backs who can produce in completely different ways and still have fantasy value. And then, in this case with Rachaad White, let's say he does play the Rachaad White role and he's the RB22 on the year. I mean, you're drafting him in the 9th round. So if you look at the running backs and how many are being taken before him, I mean, this is going to be a long count here. I got 3, 6,
34.
9. Yeah, 34.
Running back 34 is.
So I mean, if you're drafting him at the 34 and he's the he's the RB 35 like he was last year, you're getting him at what you paid for.
Finished, yeah.
Rather than last year where you're taking him as the 6th running back off the board and now he's the RB 35. Like it's two different stories. And this year you can be on the side of, it didn't cost me a lot. And if he blows up, like whatever, it's a similar situation to Scatabo. By the time you get to the 9th round, he might be a flex at the most. He's probably just a bench piece.
Right.
So, like, to have a talent like Travis Etienne as a bench piece with a possible upside, which he's shown in years past, I mean, I don't know. I'm not willing to say that I'm completely out on Travis Etienne just yet.
You made me feel a little bit better, I will say. Like some of the
should I go into sales?
The stress, yeah. I mean, you should be. Why not?
Maybe.
Moving into the wide receiver position, wide receiver hidden gem I have for you is Jaden Higgins, rookie wide receiver out of Houston for the Houston Texans, going in the 10-12, so end of the 10th round, as the wide receiver 53. Coming out of college, Higgins was from Iowa State. Loved what I saw, from him. I know we didn't highlight him much in our, pre-draft process, but, I definitely watched some tape on Jaden Higgins. Loved the size. Loved the, stats he put up in the yards per route run. He's like, I believe he's like 6'5", big frame. And at first I was very excited to see where he would go. When I saw that he went to Houston, I was a little nervous because I thought we're not going to see much of Jaden Higgins in year one. He's got the comp that everybody gave for him, and I totally saw it when he was drafted, was Nico Collins. And it was like, in my head, it was like, there's their second Nico. They already have a Nico, so there's no reason for him to play. So he's not even going to see the field. And then the more I thought about it, Jaden Higgins is necessary for this Houston Texans offense. The comp for him is Nico, but it's like, why wouldn't you have Nico on the other side of Nico? Because they're just going to dominate every time. You can't double both sides of the field if Higgins, plays to the true potential of what Nico Collins is now. So, in two wide receiver sets, I think he's going to be out there more, which means more opportunity for targets. You look at the depth chart, on our lads, and he's marked as the second wide receiver on this team. Like Christian Kirk is the slot guy, but when they go out there, opposite of each other, Nico Collins is Jaden Higgins, which is kind of awesome to see. So, and the other thing I'm going to point out is that they have a new offensive coordinator. They've gotten rid of Bobby Slowick, and they've brought in Nick Caley, who's come from essentially the Sean McVay offense, where you're probably going to see a higher passing volume than you did last year in the Bobby Slowick system. And in fantasy football, we're here to play probability, and so if the passing volume for CJ Stroud is going to go up, it's got to go to obviously it's going to go to Nico. He's going to be he's going to be an alpha, but it's got to go to somewhere else. And the more I think about it, it has to go to Jaden Higgins. And right now, so like I said, he's going as the wide receiver 53, which is Like he's going with guys like Rashid Shaheed, Marquise Brown, Marvin Mims, and if this Houston Texans offense takes a step forward, like I'm expecting them to do, especially with this kind of new facelift of offensive scheme that they're going to have, like Jaden Higgins is a steal down here at the wide receiver 53.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, obviously, I mentioned Rashid Shaheed, Marquise Brown, like all guys I would take ahead of them. I would take Jaden Higgins ahead of Darnell Mooney. I'd probably take Jaden Higgins ahead of Keon Coleman. I'd take Jaden Higgins ahead of this is kind of might be a stretch, but maybe both of the Indianapolis Colts, Josh Downs and Michael Pittman Jr. I'm definitely
taking an argument.
I'm definitely taking him over Brandon Ayuk. You know what I mean? And then Ibuka is really where like the question starts. Like I don't think I would take him over Ibuka or Jaden Reed. So, like if he kind of beats the ADP at wide receiver 53, like I think he is, like it's just another added
getting
bonus.
him for nothing.
For
Wide
nothing.
receiver 53.
Right, at the 10-12. You know what I mean? So,
and if you're in a keeper league like that and he smashes, it's
oh my god, that's
value.
huge. If he's in a keeper league, everybody from the bottom league, close your ears. if I take Jaden Higgins in this draft, you can guarantee he's going to be probably my keeper if he plays out the way that I think he's going to. Like that's huge.
I mean, I remember around the draft when he gets taken by Houston, with his college teammate. My first thought is like, okay, you got Nico. Higgins is very similar build to Nico.
Right.
Why would you have two of the same guy? But when you lay it out as if like, okay, Nico's on one side of the field, Jaden Higgins on the other, I would like to think that all the defenses are going to be looking at Nico. But if Jaden Higgins
just let Jaden Higgins dominate
anything, even just a sniff of Nico Collins, I mean, the guy's going to be one-on-one, 75% of the time?
Yep.
Like, I mean, these are things you have to think about.
There's no DB that's 6'4". You know what I mean? Like he's 6'4", 215. Like there's no DB that is like out physicaling, Jaden Higgins.
And again, you're taking him as the wide receiver 53.
Right.
Like it does not. He could have 0 points all year, and you can forget about him. Like it's not if you have to drop him, because that's the thing. Like for this episode, since it's hidden gems, like 9 times out of 10, like if you need to drop him, you can drop this person because you're not paying him at a premium.
Right. So we shall see. I did give it a little. I didn't realize. I totally forgot. I didn't see your hidden gem for wide receiver, but I did kind of hint him. But why don't you go ahead and take the field?
Yeah, I'm going to Emeka Egbuka, another rookie wide receiver. It's
Love
actually so scary how in I am on this guy. Like really bad. Like there's a high chance that I trade for him in every single
I was going to say,
league.
do you have any shares of him in Dynasty?
I do. I have him in the Dynasty that we talked about earlier.
Oh, you do have him there.
I might have him in the Gridiron Dynasty that we started. I don't remember. No, we don't. That was the goal. I know I have him somewhere else. Hold on. No, that's Godwin. Maybe I don't. Maybe I only have him in one spot. Okay, yeah, it looks like I have a lot of deals to make because he will be on all my rosters by the end of this.
You got to be about it.
But yeah, so it's Emeka Egbuka. The huge thing is, Chris Godwin's not participating in team activities to start camp. He's going to continue to rehab on his own. We still haven't seen him on the field with Tampa Bay. The team says they expect him to be ready by week 1. His representation has said the same thing. But does Tampa Bay sit back and realize, like, hey, we just took this guy with the 19th pick in the first round. Like they just paid Godwin his money. It was like 3 years, something like that.
Yeah, it was like 3 years, $33 million.
And a good amount of money. Like very happy for Chris Godwin. But now that you've established that contract for him, he's coming back from injury. In a pretty gruesome one. Like if I remember correctly, his ankle was turned a completely
dislocated.
It was a complete opposite way when they were carting him off the field.
It was gross. I remember watching it. It was gross.
Exactly. So he's coming back from that injury. You take a talent like Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State, who has been the second fiddle to all these big Ohio State wide receivers that have come out, yet he continued to produce while he was at Ohio State. Now you have the luxury of saying, hey, Chris Godwin, listen, we appreciate you, working your tail off to get back as soon as possible. We saw how you left the field last year. We want you to be back and ready for the rest of the season because I think Tampa Bay will be in a position to, win a couple games in the playoffs. It's a weak division. So now you have the luxury of letting Chris Godwin take his time. Now Egbuka, who's getting the run with all these reps in training camp that Chris Godwin is not there. When it comes to the rest of the receiving room, obviously I love Mike Evans, but this could be his his last hurrah. It could be hey, Mike Evans, go get 1,000 yards and go sail off into the sunset and live on a beach for the rest of your life. And the rest of the room, it's an unproven Jalen McMillan who people had high hopes for, but now nobody's talking about it because they drafted Emeka Egbuka.
Yeah.
So I really want to be paying attention to Chris Godwin's rehab and seeing what that timeline looks like. Obviously, the team and his representation and himself are going to be very, what's the word I'm looking for here? Very optimistic on where he's at in this recovery. But again, we all saw how he left the field last year. And the tape that Emeka Egbuka has at Ohio State, we talked about this through the draft process, has to be one of the most polished receivers, not only in this draft class, but even in recent draft classes. Like, everything just looks so sound and smooth, and he looks like he's coming off an NFL field, yet he hasn't even touched one yet. I mean, for all these factors, and plus where he's being drafted at the 9-12, so he's basically a 10th round pick. He's being drafted behind Darnell Mooney, Michael Pittman Jr., Keon Coleman. Like, you're going to tell me any of those guys excite you more than Emeka Egbuka?
Not even
And it's
a
like,
chance.
okay, let's say Chris Godwin does come back. Let's say it's week 4, week 5. But that whole time, Emeka Egbuka's been creeping up. You're gonna tell Emeka Egbuka to go sit on the bench? I don't think so.
Not a chance.
Because if he produces the way I expect him to, with how well Baker can sling the rock, and keep 2 fantasy options relevant, in a receiver room, for a season long, I think Emeka Egbuka is gonna have enough run at the start of the year while Godwin is coming back, to where they're gonna give him so much leash that they can't pull him back in. Because he's already going to have all this stuff out on tape, and it's going to be too little, too late. And now all of a sudden you have a fantasy value at the end of the 9th round.
Yeah, the 2 big things, just in addition to what you're saying, because I agree with every single thing that you said. I saw a recent interview with Baker Mayfield about asking how Egbuka has kind of transitioned into the NFL, and Baker gave him praise for what he's been able to do on the field as a blocker, being versatile, like basically like all the kind of like the grinder mentality stuff. And then you also look at, when they talk to some of his coaches, like, he's a perfectionist. Like, he wants to, be the best and make sure every route is crisp. Everything is like perfect to a T. Like, that's awesome and what you want to see. On top of that, like you said about Chris Godwin, Mike Evans is in the last year of his deal. After this year, there is no, they have to resign him if they want to. Yeah. I think maybe eventually they will, because Mike Evans has meant more to that franchise than any other player in recent history. Yeah. So maybe they give him a team friendly deal and let him ride off into the sunset for 1-2 year deal, whatever it may be. But if they don't, you're telling me that it's I forgot how old Chris Godwin is. I want to say
28.
He's 28. So a 29-year-old Chris Godwin. There is no Mike Evans and an unproven Jalen McMillan, and now you throw Emeka Egbuka into the mix. Plus Baker Mayfield is there. I believe they worked out something with his deal where he's there for more years or something like that. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna vet that right now.
Godwin's 29.
Yeah, Godwin is 29. Baker is in all the way until 2027, so Baker's in for 2-3 more years, and Egbuka's there. Like, that's awesome. Like, you just talked about, we talked about with Higgins being a keeper in keeper drafts. Egbuka's the star right there,
top of my list
of a keeper. So I love everything about that.
And the other thing that's not it has nothing to do with football, the game itself, but I think it should be important, just something to consider. In the age of NIL that we're in right now, Egbuka spends his whole college career at Ohio State with guys like Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jeremiah Smith. There's got to be names I'm forgetting here. Just these,
Marvin Harrison Jr.
Just these loaded wide receiver classes. And in the age of NIL, any one of those years, he said, you know what? I'm out of here. I'm going anywhere else. I'm probably getting paid way more than I am right now, and I'm gonna be the dude at noon on Saturday on campus. Yeah, he stayed at Ohio State, grinded it out, like you mentioned, having that grind mentality, ends up winning a national championship and really not being the dude. Any year that he was on this offense, there was always a name, more, a higher profile name than his, no matter what season it was. So the fact that he stuck around at Ohio State, grinded it out, won a national championship, didn't take the easy way out that you see a lot of these guys doing with how easy it is, in this day and age of NIL. I think that has to speak volumes as well.
He's got that dog in him. He 100% has that dog in him.
Wow, I didn't know this was your pick. Let's go.
Moving into the tight end category of our hidden gems, Woo's already excited, so that's all I need to see. But it's Mason Taylor, tight end.
Feed me. I need
tight
more
end
garbage.
of the New York,
I need more garbage.
Jets. Listen, all I gotta say about Mason Taylor, this one's very quick and very brief. He's going in the 14th round as the tight end 23. The main point that I'm all gonna say is we have no idea who the number 2 target is. Woo, you're the Jet fan here. Can you tell me who the number 2 target is right now?
It might be Josh Reynolds.
Jesus Christ, it's Josh Reynolds. Like, that's awful, right there. So there's my point right there. You're telling me Josh Reynolds is the number 2 target?
No, Brees Hall. I lied. Brees Hall.
But receiving wise,
No,
though, you know
I
what I
know.
mean? Josh Reynolds. Mason Taylor is easily the tight end 1 for the Jets, and there's no competition. Like he is a rookie coming in, and he is already entrenched as the number 1 tight end for this team. I would also like to point out that Woo talked about Fields in his last years in Chicago. I'll bring them up again because in the last 2 years that he was in Chicago, Cole Kmet finished as the tight end 7 and tight end 7. And excuse me, sorry. Because I had his stats up. So in those years where he was the tight end 7, Cole Kmet had 90 targets 1 year, or 69 targets in 2022, 90 targets in 2023. He had 719 yards, 6 touchdowns. I'm not saying like Mason Taylor is 1 for 1, what Cole Kmet is, but that's just basically to prove to you that Justin Fields utilizes the tight end and will throw to the tight end. So, someone like Mason Taylor going as the tight end 23, he essentially can go, you don't even have to draft him. You don't even have to worry about him. And then you can slot a player in the IR spot. If you want to go and take Chris Godwin and slot him in your IR spot and just pick up Mason Taylor, perfect. There you go. Like you don't even have to worry about drafting him, but you just have to keep an eye on the name. That's basically my argument for Mason Taylor.
No, it's a solid argument because it's Josh Reynolds, Alan Lazard, Xavier Gibson, Malachi Corley. Like these are the other pass catchers that they have. And the other thing with Jeremy Ruckert is there. He's been there for a couple years now. But the thing with Jeremy Ruckert is, I was just looking at the depth chart just because they're all out now, so now you have to look.
Oh yeah, you do.
And they do have Ruckert listed as the tight end 1, but my thing for Ruckert is, the tight ends they've had in recent years, like, Tyler Conklin. There's another name that I'm forgetting that was in between. But even with guys, kind of just like vets that they kind of just plug and play just to fill a roster spot, he never got any other kind of run. Like Tyler Conklin's not somebody who's going to blow you away. You would like to think, Jeremy Ruckert would get a little bit of playing time last year and see some targets and, be a part of the offense, and he just wasn't. So I listen, Mason Taylor, I'm excited, man. That kid's he's an athlete.
And that's the other thing too is like when we watch, because we talked about Mason Taylor on our tight end show, like he is athletic enough to be a problem on the football field. A lot of things that we watched out of his tape from LSU was a lot of 5-yard outs, and a lot of slants and things like that. But I think if he is given a more diverse route tree, I think you probably see he reminded me when I watched him so much of like Zach Ertz when Zach Ertz was in Philadelphia, and I want to say that year Zach Ertz set the record on tight end receptions or something. He was like the tight end 4. Now I'm not saying let's chalk it up Mason Taylor as the tight end 4, but like there's an avenue for that in fantasy football. You know what I mean? Like you could take some week 1, starter who's going to get you through, and then, piecemeal it together with like Mason Taylor and some other tight ends, to get you through the fantasy season. And who knows if Mason Taylor breaks out, then, that's just someone you picked up off waivers is huge.
Yeah, no, listen, I think the athletic profile should be enough for him to have some sort of value this year.
Yeah. Speaking of Zach Ertz, why don't you give us the final hidden gem?
Yeah, don't make fun of me, but it is Zach Ertz. And listen, this is the idea behind this show was, sleeper picks, diamond in the rough, whatever you want to call it. This is I'm calling this one. You're taking your winter jackets out of the basement. We're in the summer right now. You put them away for the summer. October rolls around, maybe November, depending on what the year is. You need that jacket. It's getting cold and you're going to work, going to school, whatever. and you take out your jacket, like, oh man, there's a $10 bill in here. You know, you can't set the world on fire with a $10 bill, but now you can go get, you know, a Gatorade or something, you know, something to make your day a little bit better.
Sure.
That's my argument here.
Wow, Zach Ertz is a $10 bill in my winter jacket.
I'm just being honest. That's really what this is. The biggest thing is that he could remain the number 2 passing option in this offense. You know, Terry McLaurin is a big question mark right now. Are they going to give him that kind of money? Because I think he wants what DK Metcalf has, which is a lot of money, and that would put him top 4 based on an annual salary.
I will vet that for you right now.
I believe that's what it is. But so I don't know if Terry McLaurin's getting that number. I don't know if Terry McLaurin's on this team week 1. Last year, he had 91 targets, 7 touchdowns. 20 of those targets came in the red zone. This team will continue to score points. Jaden Daniels is so incredibly fun to watch. It's going to be a good offense. And I like that number of opportunities. You know, targets in the red zone are huge. Last year, he had 83% of the team's targets for the tight end position. You know, people are interested in Ben Sinnott. And I do think, you know, he's an interesting player and he could start to get some run. But, I mean, last year, Zach Ertz he was 34 last year and he still had 83% of the tight end targets for the team. I mean, you know, how much is Ben Sinnott really going to eat into that this year?
Yeah. DK's getting $33 million a year. That's 4th. So only people ahead of him are Chase, Jefferson, and Lamb.
Yeah, you're drunk if you think McLaurin's getting that kind of. He might be drunk. I mean, that's crazy. That's craziness.
Wilson is 32.5, 32.5.
In what world should he get paid more than Garrett Wilson?
Yeah,
or AJ Brown, or Amon-Ra, Tyreek Hill. I'm just reading down the list.
I think you're going at it from a lens of, you know, where he is in age wise. Like I all of it makes total sense, but there's also a human aspect to the NFL that we tend to kind of neglect. And, you know, not for nothing, and I'm not being an apologist, but Terry McLaurin has stuck through for that franchise
fine with
thick
that.
and thin.
But he's not getting $33 million over 3 years. Maybe you give it to him for 2.
Yeah.
Maybe you throw a team option on it.
Yeah.
But guaranteed 3 years.
I think eventually they're going to work a deal out. I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be in the $33 million range, but it's going to be something worth McLaurin's while. And if not, then they trade him. But if they do trade him, like, number one, back to your hidden gem. That's awesome for Zach Ertz because he just sees even
and
more
targets.
targets.
The only other guy who's catching the ball is Debo Samuel. We have no idea what he's going to look like.
But
he's not the Debo of years past.
If that happens and they lose McLaurin, like, you might as well pack it up if you're a Washington Commanders fan.
Yeah, and like, you know, I know it's a gross pick, but you know where you're getting him in the draft, you know, he really doesn't have to do much to.
Sometimes you got to go dumpster diving, though.
Sometimes you don't. You know, like, he really doesn't have to do a lot to outperform, you know, where he's being drafted. Worst case scenario, you drop him and it's like nothing happened. You lose a $10 bill. Oh, no, my day goes on. Yep. He's being drafted in the 13th round. He's at the 1306. Guys around him, Dallas Goedert, Kyle Pitts, Isaiah Likely. You know, I think there's obviously solid arguments for all of them, but Isaiah Likely, as of right now, is the tight end 2 on his roster. Dallas Goedert,
broken foot.
Yeah, Dallas Goedert is option number 5 on that disgusting Philadelphia offense, and Kyle Pitts is Kyle Pitts. So, yeah. I mean, in terms of where you're drafting him, again, like, there's some sort of value there. God forbid the McLaurin thing doesn't work out. If Debo Samuel can't stay on the field, like, this Washington offense is going to score points whether people like it or not, and whether it's going to be Noah Brown catching the ball, Terry McLaurin, or Zach Ertz.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. I think it's probably both. It's good both ways for Zach Ertz, whether they sign McLaurin or they don't. But I think team wise, they need McLaurin to really kind of get things going. But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Those are our hidden gems of 2025. We appreciate you listening in for as long as you have been. Please make sure you're following us on all of our socials, Twitter at 4th and Fantasy Pod, Instagram and TikTok at 4th and Fantasy. Check us out on YouTube if you like a video format. But we are moving along. Actually, I don't think we have had the chance to tell the people, but after this episode that posts on August 6th, we're giving them 2 episodes a week.
Do you think they want to see us that much?
I don't know if they want to see us that much, but
we're
going to find out. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we love and appreciate you, and we'll see you on the other side.
See ya.